I'd like to call the Germantown School District Personnel Committee meeting to order on Monday, April 21st, 2025 at 5:33 p.m. I will be sitting in as committee chairman this evening. Eric Brown is absent, excused. Higginbotham
Here.
and Mr. Ewert will be sitting in, I guess, in Eric's spot.
Here.
Item number 3, agenda revisions and approval.
The motion approve the agenda.
Second.
Higginbotham with the motion, Ewert with the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4, the approval of the March 3rd, 2025 meeting minutes.
Motion to approve the March 3rd, 2025 meeting minutes.
Second.
Higginbotham with the motion, Ewert with the second to approve the March 3rd, 2025 meeting minutes. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5, reports and updates. Letter A, teacher contracts. Mr. Nowak.
We have 6 contracts that we'd like to bring forward. By the time of the creation of this document, there were 6. I believe there are a couple more, and by tomorrow there may be 3 more for when we meet on Monday. So that would go into consent agenda, but as of this point, it's where we're at. It's a very strong group of teachers. We're excited about them. Many of them are not from the area. We go as far from here as Virginia in one case, but they all have certification here or licensure here. And moving our staffing process up by probably 3 to 4 weeks has helped us dramatically in terms of getting out ahead of this process.
I would add to Mr. Nowak's point, if you look at the titles of, or the assignments, some of these are really hard to fill.
Yeah.
Middle school tech ed, high school science position, school psychologist. So to Mr. Nowak's point, our principals have been very busy this last month trying to get ahead of the market. And as Mike said, 3 new today, 3 or 2 new today.
Yeah.
That we'll
kinda
be
losing track,
finalizing.
honestly.
So yeah, it's good. We're close to full staffing.
Okay. And just to be clear, you may have said this, this would be for the 25-26 school year, just in case anybody's looking and
Correct,
seeing
yeah.
it full-time and everything else.
Yeah.
Virginia, that's a heck of a commute.
They're gonna take one of those right way coaches.
Mr. Ebert?
So just looking at the salaries attached to it, I'm looking at no first time teachers.
Just want to verify. Not in this group.
And I think that also speaks volumes to being out ahead of this intentionally from the administration standpoint and board action standpoint, to get the most qualified representatives we can in front of our students. This list here shows that.
One. There's one.
Okay.
And that's a hard to fill position.
Okay, so it worked.
So it's negotiated.
Yeah, and that makes sense to me, given those situations we dealt with last year. And intentionally, like I said, we're pushing the envelope to be ahead of the curve to get the best staff in front of us. So I appreciate that work, and if we're adding 3 more to this, 2 or 3 more.
2 or 3.
2 or 3 more by the time we post for Monday's board meeting. There's another wave of postings that are going up as we speak, more so in the elementary ranks. We had to solidify, not necessarily positions, but where teachers would be
Yep.
in buildings to do that, and we have.
Good. I think better position than we were last year. Good point.
This item is informational only unless there's other questions or comments. We'll move on. Okay. Item 5B, teacher resignations. Mr. Nowak.
There are 2 resignations we bring forward, Kristen Oxner and Peyton Anderson. Kristen is an immediate resignation, and Peyton Anderson is at the conclusion of the 24-25 school year.
Okay. This too is information only. Any questions or comments?
Just the forfeiture that's involved in it. It looks like if one is immediate, then that's 4,000.
Correct.
And then the other one is with the conclusion of the school year, so that's 0, right?
Correct.
Okay. Next item, 5C, staffing update. Mr. Nowak.
Thank you. So this staffing update looks a little different. I think I had mentioned this. Looks a little different than they have in the preceding probably 1 or 2 months, maybe even 3 months. You'll see that the teaching vacancies have picked up, that those are those positions. Some of those are positions, the 3 that hopefully are filled by Monday. There are others that are still in there, and then what's not in there, and I want to make this clear, is those elementary postings. As soon as those go up, I would include them in this update. I didn't want to put them all in now because we were still kind of trying to clarify buildings and whatnot. So while this is a kind of an expansive list, there's still going to be, there'll be more that are added to it. Hopefully. By May, that actually could be reduced if we have more hires. So it's a busy time of the year. Other than that, we're at a point where in the next probably 4 weeks, our aid picture will, it always seems to at this time of year, we'll have a number of retirements. We'll have people that leave that realm of work for numerous reasons. In some cases, it's, we have a number of aides that are wanting to go into the teaching ranks and have planned to do so. That typically happens. Sometimes it's retirements. Sometimes it's people who choose a different career route. So when that happens, we'll indicate in here resignations, and in some cases we'll indicate why, and then we'll post for those as well. So all that has to solidify, just in terms of what our total aid FTE is. Some of that is working with pupil services on the number of special education aides that we'll need. All those things are kind of in motion.
This too is informational only for this meeting. Any questions or discussion? Item 6, unfinished business, there is none. Item 7, new business, letter A, coaching contract.
We have one coaching contract to bring forward. This is for softball at GHS. This person has been in place now for a few weeks as spring sports have started, but we needed to bring it to you today. So Michael Kerr, assistant softball coach, GHS, for $3,200.
Be looking for a motion, unless there's questions before.
I don't have any. I'll make a motion, positive recommendation of full board to approve the assistant girls softball coaching contract for Michael Kerr.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor for the coaching contract for girls softball for Michael Kerr by Ewert, second by Higginbotham. Any questions or discussion? Mr. Loth?
I'm just curious, is he a parent of one of the students on the team? Or?
I don't know that.
I don't believe so. I think he's coached in the past with our current varsity coach
Okay.
in a different capacity.
Okay,
Club
very good.
sport, I believe.
It's nice of him to step up for this.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item B, new clubs. Mr. Nowak.
We have 2 clubs that we'd like to bring forward. The first is for middle and high school. It's Washington County Trail Sharks Mountain Biking Club. It sounds like a really neat activity, great experience for kids. This group would exist with a volunteer advisor and would require no district funds, which is always good. The second group is The board game club, this is for the middle school. Purpose is to provide students with an opportunity to strategize and socialize in a structured setting through board games. This as well is a group that would require a volunteer advisor and would require no district funds.
You looking for a motion?
I'll make a motion with the positive recommendation of the full board to approve the Washington County Trail Sharks Mountain Biking Club and Board Game Club for the 2025-2026 school year.
Second.
Motion by Higginbotham, second by Ewert to approve the two clubs, the Washington County Trail Sharks Mountain Biking Club and the Board Game Club for the 25-26 school year. Any discussion?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr. Ewert.
And with Sarah not here, do we have any background on the Trail Sharks Mountain Biking Club? Considering it seems to be an out of district club.
I do not.
It would be similar to a co-op, like our hockey, gymnastics in that respect.
Yeah, I'm understand that. I'm assuming it's coming forward through her office with a positive recommendation. It'd just be nice for her to be able to speak a little bit on the history of it.
Yeah.
If there's any concerns or
We can have her speak Monday night to that, yeah.
just not some knowledge and background
Yep.
of it and the membership size,
How many
the scope
interested?
of what the involvement is. Would just be nice to know, considering we're kind of lending a stamp of approval from the district. Yes, your kids could or should participate
For sure.
in this group.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
As an
I can
outside-
tell you that mountain bike clubs and or teams are becoming very popular in this
Yeah,
area of the
absolutely.
state with high schools specifically.
Yeah, you have some great trails around.
Yeah. The whole Kettle Moraine area.
Yeah. Some of the best riding in the state. I know we got into mountain biking heavily through COVID because it was an outdoor activity
Sure.
you could do. I could tell you bikes were crazy expensive.
Yeah.
Supply and demand, it still works.
Yeah.
It's still a beautiful
It
concept.
still makes the economy run, right?
Yeah. So no, I don't have any concerns that way, but just if we could have, because it is an outside group,
Sure.
we're lending the school's approval to it. Some form of information would be nice, I guess. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 7C, support staff compensation study. Mr. Nowak.
Thank you. We've talked throughout the year about support staff compensation study. We've looked at a number of things, and at this point in time, we feel comfortable with a recommendation in this area. I don't know that this is the end of us looking at support staff compensation and benefits, but at this point in time, it's where we're at. And it specifically deals with compensation. We talked an awful lot about our current budget, in some regards the unknowns of the budget at this point in time. We talked about comparatives, where we were, where these groups were relative to other districts. They're different. We've talked about this in previous meetings, but each of these four groups on a comparative basis is somewhat different in the comparatives. In particular, on the custodial and maintenance side, as you do that comparative, that group is a little higher than others. The others are close to where these neighboring districts are. Where we landed in terms of a recommendation was to incorporate a stipend process that's outlined in this background. Much like we looked at longevity with teachers, as we have in the past, we've incorporated a longevity process. Difference being, this is done as stipend. What we're proposing is this to be done as stipend in the year structures that you see, with food service, aides, administrative assistants, and custodial maintenance. You'll notice that they vary. We base that in some regards off of hourly wage and what each of these groups typically makes on an annual basis. So you'll see food service and aides kind of working into a progression. And then, as I mentioned, when we looked at the comparatives, we felt that putting administrative and custodial maintenance, administrative assistance and custodial and maintenance at the same level relative to these stipends would be appropriate. Teacher longevity is laid out in 5-year increments with 5, 10, 15, 20 years. We incorporated a 3-year longevity stipend with support staff because of the longevity of the number of years that we typically see people working. We wanted to recognize those in those earlier stages with some type of stipend, which is what you see. Anything you guys want to add?
I don't think so. Brittany?
I just wanted to say, when we were going through some of this, like, as you are aware, that we went through, the Human Resource Department went through the teacher compensation study in the previous year. They're taking, 4 completely different groups, and I understand that they're all support staff. It's just hard to take each group and the needs or the suggestions or desires, I guess, when you did the feedback groups, to take their what they think are important and then sum it up into one group is hard to do. So I'm assuming in the previous meetings you've seen what he received from the feedback groups. So he took one of the areas of there that seemed to be consistent through everybody to create this recommendation.
And it was proportionally accurate, as you think of a food service person, extremely important, preparing and feeding our kids. However, their day is this big compared to maybe a custodian or administrative assistant. So that's why you see the variance in the dollar amounts, given the amount of work time there.
Correct. Also, food service and aides are school year employees, and the other 2 are well, not all administrative assistants, but administrative assistants and maintenance and custodians are year round. So it's like it was a struggle to try to come up with what the appropriate dollar amounts would be. So that might be a discussion that you have tonight regarding the different categories.
As Mr. Noack said, like the teacher compensation study, this is a proposal that we're hopeful you'll move forward with, and then we'll revisit these after they've had some life, just like the teacher compensation plan, as we understand the biennial budget, where we're at down the road, what market's telling us, as well as how hard it is to attract or retain these people in these different areas, just like teachers, and we can always come back in future years with adjustments and hopefully make these more robust compensation plans.
Do we have an idea of how many staff are falling in each of the categories?
We did one scenario with slightly different years, and then we've adjusted as of last week, we adjusted the recommendation slightly, so we do have a document that shows them all. I don't have it with me, but I did total the new years that we put on here, the 3, the 5, the 10, totaling what would be to the next school year. As he stated, due to us not knowing all the specifics of the biennial budget, the dollar amount of the total, right at this moment, I wouldn't know. It's not a large dollar amount, so could we fit it into our budget? I would say yes, we could, but based on what the biennial budget says to us, I'm not thinking that we're going to get, a large influx of revenue. So I just want the committee to be aware of that too, but the dollar amount that we estimated wasn't gonna be drastic. And then I believe it's also stated in here that it's based on 1.0 FTE. So for example, food service staff does not work 1.0 FTE, so they'd get a proration of this. So my quick math was based on everybody being 1.0 FTE when I did it.
Okay, so we are prorating for
FTE.
staff that is, okay.
Correct. And I think that's just based on correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, 1.0 FTE is based on an 8-hour day, not a year-round
Correct.
position, because 2 2080 or 2080 hours in a year is different than if I work 8 hours a day, but I only work 9 months a year. So I didn't know how you were calculating your
Yeah,
1.0 FTE or
and
not.
that issue of just calculation, even separate from this, comes into play in a lot of this. There are so many different scenarios. There's year-round, there's regular part-time, there's part-time year-round. There's
I think
all
that's
kinds
how
of
I was
scenarios.
stating, how it's hard to put these 3 positions into one overall category, even
Yeah.
though they're all considered support staff. I think that's where the difficult part for me would be.
Right, and that comes into play in the discussion of other benefits like paid time off, which we could talk about if there's interest. So.
Additionally, this is on top of, as it's outlined on the last page, annual increase to cost of living, whatever the board acts on as well.
Mr. Barney?
I'm
Sorry.
guessing most of this information will just get copied and pasted into the board packet. The last paragraph of the background recognizes longevity milestones of 2 years, 5 years, 10, 15, and 20. So if it is 3 years, you'll want to correct that
We will,
before
thank you.
you move it.
Yep.
In this too, it may have been noted, but this too, it's similar to the teachers where they have to complete the
Correct.
fiscal year to earn that stipend,
Yep.
assuming that they've hit
They
that
have to
mark.
complete the years of, in this case,
Is-
possibly years of service too, because.
That's what I meant, yeah, that's what I meant.
They could get it mid-year because they started January, because this is very unique.
Yeah.
It's hard, you almost have to forget what we did last year with teachers, since they're contracted for 190 days, where hourly employees, that there's such variance, as you can see in staffing reports, right? There's turnover.
Other questions?
Why stipend base versus additional pay to base wage?
That was part of a discussion around what budget could tolerate, or what the comfort level was. We incorporated stipends into one aspect of the teacher compensation study, and from that, we didn't feel comfortable with making that a year-to-year type of increase, and where we landed was stipend.
And our comps with the surrounding districts that we used to be a teacher, we're on or above in some categories, whereas with the teacher piece, we were below.
Yeah. So I think that was part of why I asked that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think going back to the full study process here, we actually showed that we were fairly well compensated in these positions compared to our peer districts. I like moving forward with something to continue to support them and appreciate their work and their dedication and years of service. I think that helps. I think a lot of the things we found out, and we talked about it early on, and you've all mentioned here, are each one of these positions are so drastically different. Most have to be treated, and they are in this scenario treated a little different. As well as some of the other things that came out that they would like to see or not see, varied wildly from position to position.
Right.
But a lot of those are not monetary things, and it was just like the certified staff study that we found out there was a lot of things we could do and have been doing differently that weren't monetary related.
Mhm.
And I'm assuming those same things are going to be implemented across these. And that doesn't take a board approval, that's an administrative
Day-to-day operation.
operational aspect. To your point where we started the conversation tonight, though, this is a good first step. And continue to acknowledge we're always going to be looking at this in some capacity to ensure we're not last in line. Ensure our staff are taken care of in an appropriate manner, but it's still respectful for the taxpayers.
To that point, there is great variance in these in many ways, and what we have typically done with any modifications with this group they're typically things that occur as handbook changes, usually in July, maybe August, I think to the point of some of these things aren't necessarily, although everything kind of does come back to money, but it's not immediate monetary, you know. We still have that ability to do that. We're still going to look at these, and although we might not say, hey, this is, you know, part of the comp study, we may still make adjustments based on something we see with a particular group that may only be, you know, 30 or 20 of 250 of our employees. So the door is still open to that.
Other questions or comments? If not, I'd be looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion with positive recommendation of the full board for approval implementation of a years of service stipend process for support staff as indicated in the documentation.
Second?
We have a motion by Ewert, second by Higginbotham, for the implementation of a years of service stipend process for support staff employees and its recommendation to the full board. Any discussion?
I would say beginning of the 25-26 fiscal year.
Yes. We get a 25, 26 fiscal.
Brittany's gotta find some money.
That's David Starr.
Yeah.
We got a few dollars in
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
there.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. One final item, item 8, adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Ewert with the motion, Higginbotham with the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Personnel Committee meeting ends at exactly 6 o'clock.